monetizing your hobbies.
You should do it. That's it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, this is Photography is Nothing.
I'm Zach Dobson.
And I'm Courtney McCracken. And this is a podcast, a video podcast.
Video. There is a video component.
And we'd love for you to watch that.
Yeah.
It should be available on all the platforms that are offering video.
Anywhere
right
you
now.
can get video, like YouTube and Spotify.
For sure. Those are two great platforms to watch if you want to see the video, which I think you do because we have lots of great pictures and video clips that are built into the podcast too for visual aids.
Exactly.
It is a photography podcast, so there are photographs.
We do talk about photographs and show them so you can know what they look like.
Right. So this is a video podcast about photography and lots of other things.
So speaking of video, we lost some video last week.
Oh, we sure did.
Yeah.
So if you were watching on YouTube or Spotify, you would have noticed that the video cut out because it was so hot because we are recording outside like maniacs.
Yeah, it was like 93 degrees and the camera shut off. And
we were so into our conversation we didn't notice because we are newbies.
No, and I had photos up on the screen on the computer instead of the video monitor. So now I know I need to keep an eye on that.
This is a mom and pop
But
operation.
I think so it didn't affect anything for listeners, but then also I think maybe it made it better some way in viewers because I put a bunch of cool photos up on the screen while we were talking.
So that was that's an exciting adventure. I'd love to hear if you saw that.
Yeah. So comments, leave lots of comments. So we wanted to talk more about what viewers want to talk about.
Yeah, and I just, if you're enjoying the podcast, we would love to hear from you in the comments of whatever platform you are watching in. And if you do like it, rate it so that some other people can find it.
Yes, rate it, share it.
I think that this is going to be really fun as we get things going, but I am like so amazed at how many people are already engaging with it and watching. And we have just really wonderful friends and, network of people that seem to be excited about it. Friends and fans, yes, who are excited about the podcast. And that feels amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Erik for leaving all those comments on the first episode. I really appreciated the feedback. So
yeah, absolutely. And then my friend LeAnn, who live texted me the first episode, all of her commentary about it, which was really fun to get and just felt really great. And she's the one that mentioned that maybe we'd forgotten to tell people there were pictures to look at. Sure. And that is true. We had forgotten because we have, as we mentioned in the first episode, we've made many attempts at getting this podcast made before we felt like, okay, this is a format we like and feel like we can sustain. Because there were other things that we liked, but we were like, this is not something we're going to be able to do.
Correct.
Week over week. And I think that if we're going to publish something and ask people to get involved and engage with it, we need to be there when they expect to see us. So hopefully starting this Wednesday, you will see Photography is Nothing in your, in your podcast.
Yes. Wednesdays are release days.
Every Wednesday.
Yeah.
For at least a good long while.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I know. That's exciting. So anyways, thanks to everybody who's been watching. Thank you for letting us know what you think.
The first thing that I wanted to talk about this week was this concept that we discuss all the time about monetizing your hobbies.
You should do it. That's it. Should we move on?
Sure. No. Because this came up again. I want to play you the Subway takes that they just did.
Okay. We love Subway takes.
We do.
By the way.
It's fun. So I'm going to play it
Great
and
commentary.
get your reaction, and then we'll talk about it.
So what's your take?
Not every hobby needs to be monetized. You can just enjoy things sometimes.
100% agree. You can just enjoy things. I think it's hard for people these days to chill.
Passion is taking like a back seat nowadays, It's like, how does this enrich in my life and not just a dollar way? What about photography?
Monetized.
Really? Even like say just I'm shooting for my own personal diary, never to show anyone but my family.
But you will in the retrospective.
Maybe.
Yes, in the retrospective or documentary about you,
Okay.
they will need to access those photos and then you'll have to license them.
Okay.
And then your hobby will be monetized.
There always is an angle somewhere.
Okay, so I think that there's a different angle on this conversation, which is, first of all, do you have to monetize something to make it worth doing? And that is a totally different question. I agree. You should just do stuff because you like to do it.
Yes.
That's, and in fact, it's kind of silly. Of course you're doing things that you like to do and aren't monetizing them. You're watching TV shows and you're not like live streaming your reactions.
Yeah.
But you could.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you play video games, or you take a walk every day, or you go to yoga class, or you whatever, right? We all do lots of things. Also, I don't know what officially makes something a hobby. Like, that's always confusing to me. Just anything you like to do. Great.
Yeah.
Super. So no, do you need to monetize all hobbies? No. If you hate your job and you have something you're very good at, should you monetize it? Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then why you already like to do it. And people say like, oh, I don't want to get complicated and get all these feelings in here. And then about monetizing and like, there's all this pressure and now I'm like running a business. And yes, okay. Anytime you start to sell something, you have now invited business into your life. But that is separate from the actual hobby or like craft that you're making. Like, you aren't businessing your pictures. You have to run a business
right
on top of taking pictures. Now you've invited business into your life.
Yeah.
You're not like ruining your original thing. You shouldn't be, because the thing that you're really good at.
No.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think that there's a trick that people play on themselves where they say like, I enjoy this too much and I don't want to try to make money at it because I'm not going to enjoy it anymore. And I think that's a cop-out.
Agreed.
And I think
100%.
I think that's what, I think it's a cop-out to be like, I think it's easier to be like, because deep down, I think there's a lot of people that are scared that they might fail, that people don't want to buy their stuff, that they're not good enough.
Those are legitimate concerns. Like,
sure.
Just because you're good at it and your friends are like, I love that, doesn't mean they're going to buy it from you.
Well,
in fact,
that's another
your friends
great
are
point.
almost never
your friends
buy
will
from
not
you.
buy anything
Like,
from you. They'll expect it.
That's why I was like so amazed that our
friend.
friends watched the podcast. Like, even watching one episode, like above and beyond.
Yeah.
That is not the job of your friends, but we love to have them. Like, amazing. But like, you have to be able to have like a marketable good that performs to a broader audience, because you can't just be, exchanging goods and services with you can, but you're not going to be able to like buy anything if you're just like trading with your friends. That's great too.
Right.
That's a different thing.
I think the first thing is to really truly get honest with yourself. Do you not want to do it? Are you really perfectly happy, contented with the setup? Like, do you like your job and you're happy to go work at your job for 40 hours a week and then to make your art or your craft or do your hobby in your free time? Then fine. Like,
the only reason we've been able to really have a career that's based in photography is because we started when we were from the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, and we know
that felt very scary. Like, people were like, you're just going to not have a job? And we were like, yeah, but actually in retrospect, like, it was actually super easy because like, what did we need? We needed nothing. We were two young adults. Like, we were healthy and we were two of us paying the bills, like splitting the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was nothing. We didn't need to make any money at all.
Right.
Which, like, also, side note, a lot of those creators that are creating full time are just a single young adult. So like, their income is probably not super high. It's just high enough for them to live off of, just like our photography income was when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, jumping ship at like 32 with like 2 kids and a house of your job and moving into monetizing something else is going to be very scary and very hard. So like, get after it if you're good at something.
Well, I think we can look at starting the podcast that way.
Ooh, that's why it took so long.
That is why it took so long.
That's why we can't renovate this house. We cannot get this done.
Yeah.
We did a house before this one.
Yeah.
And then we've been in this house and it's taken forever.
Yeah.
Because we've been so busy with kids and work and homeschooling and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, when do you have time to paint a room?
Yeah.
Even? And that's an easy project.
Well, and we've set up things in a way that, because the photography that I do is about documenting life and things that are happening, Like, we can go and do things with the kids, and I'm taking photos.
Yeah, but even that is very hard. Like, we have to really concentrate and like circle back on how do we do things in a way that we can take the kids with us, or you can take your wife and kids with you, because
we're trying to show experiences and places and tell stories that are not actually centered on our family. We're not like family vloggers.
Yes, we don't want to be like
our
family
kids
vloggers,
are with us, and I do, of course, take pictures of them doing the things. But when we go to a place, like, I don't want all of my photos to feature our kids.
No, because we don't want them to have that childhood.
Right.
So that's not the choice that we're making.
So it is. You're right. It is. I mean, we're on trips, and a lot of times, you know, if I'm like, oh, like, I remember this guy in the Keys, that guy Jerry with the van. And like, I wanted to take his picture.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
stepping away.
I'm stepping away. So I have to say first, hey, Courtney, I'm going to go ask that guy if I can take his picture. And you'll be like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then that means,
15 minutes of killing time.
Yeah, you've got the
when
kids.
We thought we were getting in the car.
Yeah.
I think we were heading to the car.
So
at
it is
point.
extra work for
and
you.
And our kids were little at that point. What did we have? We had like 9,
That's true.
6, 4, and 2.
Yeah.
I think when we took that Keys
right,
trip.
We hadn't
so
had
we only had like
yet.
one big kid. But every step of the way, you think like, this is so hard. There's never going to be a time that you think it's super easy, because there's not a path.
But that's like,
there's not a path for you. Nobody, and most of the people, most of the evidence you're getting in the world is that you should not veer off this path. It's too scary. You're never going to be able to buy a house. You're never going to be able, there's so much conversation around that. Never being able to like build for retirement. Hey, guess what you don't need if you're doing what you like?
Yeah, for real.
You don't need retirement anymore, because you actually want to do it. I mean, like, you always say, like, why would I stop? I'm not going to stop taking pictures.
Never going to stop taking
So our goal
photos.
is to be able to create an existence that where, your pictures continue to be valuable.
Yeah.
Hopefully to the audience, right? And that there's, so you build, I think, not thinking about, like, we still come at things as a culture around like a pension mindset.
Yeah.
And that even if it's a 401k, it's just still it's really like you're paying into your own pension, and then it's going to pay you back over time.
It's
very hard to create that much
idea.
income.
Instead,
you could just have like a secondary source of income that is enjoyable, like that you love doing, and supplements what you have already in the bank.
Yeah.
Why not do that? What do you want to do? You want to sit around and watch YouTube
no,
all day?
Well, this is giving me a thought
you want to sit around and watch TV all day?
This is giving me a thought that I've never had before.
A brand new thought.
Yes, which is that your photos can be like a retirement fund in that they appreciate with age, because
a retirement plan. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of the pictures, a lot of the photographers that people love right now, like William Eggleston, like, people thought those photos were so boring in the 70s and the 80s when they were taken. They were like, this is just a piece of fruit on the counter. This is just, an empty diner. This is just whatever, a car sitting next to the road. And it was unremarkable to a lot of people. But now more and more people like those photos, and they sell for millions of dollars. And a lot of it is, yes, they are beautiful to people who really know and appreciate photography on like a aesthetic level. But so much of what makes them interesting to a broader audience is that they're photos of the everyday of a time that no longer exists. Right. So much of what you take today that might seem like every day or maybe not as interesting, if you're taking interesting photos of it, they could potentially get a broader and broader and broader audience as that falls 20, 30, 40, 50 years behind us.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we've often talked about how, your photographs are to be, I mean, that's what we have to leave to our kids at this juncture, right? So, and we're, I think that we're lucky in that we, own our house in conjunction with our bank, and that we're on our way to owning our house, and that we have the opportunity to create art that can collect over time. And I think that we've seen that as something to leave our kids. And you're right, like, this is something actually that we're depositing in the bank for even ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll have, and I don't know why that's a new concept to us, because you regularly license old pictures.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
They continue to have
frequently.
value, and we
Yeah.
kind of think like that's so wild when that happens.
Well, you know, something else.
What people want to license and what they need it
Yeah.
for. And like new things are always coming up.
Which is why you need to always keep your copyright.
Always keep your copyright.
Never sell your copyright. Never sign a work for hire.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
We'll talk about that many, many times throughout
Yeah,
this
just
podcast.
continue to. But okay, so coming back to the whole idea of, I think you're right that the real question is are you brave enough to try to monetize your hobby?
Yeah,
That's really the question.
sure.
Do you have something you love? Now, if it's truly a hobby, you're probably not very good at it. If you're good at it, why aren't you monetizing it? Because money is an exchange of energy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
People like what you do, they give you money.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. So like putting any other I think that there's a lot of that like 90s grunge, like sellout Gen X culture that's still pervasive, where you're not supposed to sell your art, which is stupid because don't you want more of their music? Don't you want more of their pictures or their paintings or whatever? Don't we want to see what they can do?
Well, I'm a better
and they
photographer.
need to be paid.
I'm a
if we
better
wanna see more of
photographer
it.
because my job is photography. Because I am taking photos
Sure.
all the time. Like I get better at my work. My personal work makes my commercial work better, and my commercial work like funds my personal work.
Yeah.
And it like goes round and round. I mean, all these people like Christopher Guest, I know you know who he is, but if people don't who are listening, the director of movies like Spinal Tap and Best in Show, and he is known for making commercials outside of that, and he uses that money to fund his projects. So he's funding his own
we wouldn't have
through
had
his
all that
commercial work.
those great movies if
Yeah.
you didn't have the ability to really indulge.
Yeah.
You know, what
Because
I
you
mean,
need
his
complete
whims
control
to make
a
really great
movie
stuff.
like that,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
like that.
So absolutely, yes, monetize your hobbies. It's okay if you don't want to, but you should really think about it.
It's more fun if
It's
you
way
do.
more fun. Wouldn't it be cooler to be like, I'm a painter than like, I'm like, what if you did something that means something? Like, again, coming back to the idea that your job is to make something in
To
this world.
create.
So if your
What we
job is
talked
to
about
create,
on the last
yes,
episode.
like get after it, whatever it is. If it's
Yeah.
creating, if it's bringing, having conversations about new ideas,
Yeah.
there's a way to make a living doing everything. That's something that we have talked about forever and ever and ever with our kids, which is why we homeschool, because we don't actually think that there's a very defined path that gets you to like a happy life. We actually think that every single unique being has a path that's right for them, that they
Yeah.
should cut through their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And algebra might not be part of it. It might not be that important. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like understanding the weather cycles, in fourth grade may not be vital to how successful you're going to be, right? Being able to stand in line might not be important.
This is why people need to be able to follow what is interesting to them.
Yes.
Like no one should be forced to learn about weather patterns or
Correct.
whatever. But you always hear anytime anyone's doing something major in any field, it's because they loved it.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
That's all you need.
Right.
That's literally all you need.
So it's wasted on anybody.
teaching-
There's one
Yes.
kid in fourth grade who's like, oh my God, this weather stuff is so cool. Like I want to go see all these cloud
Perfect.
formations and document them and record tornadoes and blah, blah, blah. Like that's the kid who's going to do something.
Yeah,
in
but
that.
that's not why they're teaching about weather, right? So
No.
this is like a whole thing. I can't get into this right
Let's
now.
not talk
Let's
about
not
it.
talk about it
Okay.
right now. Okay, so I have so many things to say about education, and I'm going to parcel them out.
Piecemeal.
Stick around.
Yeah.
Stick around if you'd love to
Right.
hear all of my theories about education. Okay?
Yeah, for
all right.
real.
Okay. So what has been going on? So we've been touching on like what's going on timing wise, date wise in our lives.
So what we've been photographing.
So we're finally done with swim team. If you've been following along, we are done with summer swim team.
Yeah. I got one final photo that I really love.
Woo! Am I going to go, sheesh?
Yeah.
Is that what I said on the post? I
Yeah.
think it was.
So I was taking photos of our end of the season swim party, and I was walking around, and it was golden hour, and the sun was coming in at a nice angle, and there are these shadows starting to form, but there's this pair of bright pink goggles that are like translucent, that, so you can see through slightly. And the sun, they were just laying on the side of the pool, about 5 feet from the pool, and the sun was hitting them, and the color was great, and there was water all on deck, so it was reflecting the sky and the people standing around. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Because this is what I love, is finding these things that are the sun is hitting. Like, to me, if the sun is illuminating an object separate from everything else around it, I'm like, this is the universe, like, pointing.
I know. You really focus on light. That is what your niche is. Is like, where is the sun hitting? That's your picture.
Yeah. That's where it starts, and that's where it...
Like, when you were gone and the sun was hitting the wall you were out of town, I think, and I sent you a picture of the sun hitting the wall because I was like, well, I feel like Zach would take this picture, so I'm going to take this picture so that he knows this happened.
Yeah.
Because I know that that's what you get very distracted by.
Yeah.
The light.
I do, and because
you're very drawn to it. I shouldn't say you can be distracted by it.
I can. That does happen.
Regularly.
Yeah. I've been looking at, like, the wall behind you, and you're like, what are you looking at?
Yes.
I'm like, sorry, the light, it looks interesting right there. Yeah, it feels like something that's being singled out for me to photograph, and I love to explore that. And to me, like, sure, one could set up a photo, one could find, like, a nice beam of light and put something in it, but to me, that's not as interesting. That's not what I want to do. I want to show what's already there because, I don't know, it feels magical for me to, like, discover something that's there. And I think that, I came up in documentary photography, so telling real stories and then bringing it into the same thing into, like, an artistic way. It's kind of like William Eggleston, like, just noticing a color or an object or something that the light's hitting in a particular way. Yeah. And thinking about that more than, like, what is this object? Is it photo worthy? But I think a lot of times
he has a lot of repeating colors.
I
feel like he was really drawn to, like, repetition of color.
Yeah.
That would be, like, you see that a lot in his really most famous photographs.
That's a good point. Yeah. The same color multiple times in different places, or also like a
objects.
Very minimal color palette.
Yes.
Like there's
like muted
1 or 2 or 3
right
colors that dominate the whole scene, like that red ceiling photo. That's one color. And it dominates the whole photo. But I think too, in these objects, it can end up being more of a larger symbol for the thing. So, like, a pair of goggles discarded by the side of the pool in great light with, figures in the water, splashing water all around, like, can stand in as, like, a symbol of summer. It's like, this is what it feels like to be at the pool.
Kids at the pool.
Yeah. Because then, too, like, I took a lot of frames of this because there were lots of people moving around. And then, at first, it was very, like,
what did you take this on?
I took this on my Fujifilm. And at first it was just the goggles and then and the figures, the people in the reflection. But then I started to notice people jumping in the water and splashing. So I started focusing on that in the background, trying to because it hits the light. And then so you've got all this extra like splashes and points of light to look at in the photo. I was trying to decide which one I liked best. I mean, I do like the figures in these. Yeah. But there's not as much water as this one that I picked out as my favorite. The water's coming all the way up by the camera. Even hitting the lens here, you can see it. So there's like a smudge.
I like how that's like washed out, but that's so clear that the reflection of the goggles is still really sharp in the sky.
So you like this frame best out of...
I don't know. I like that one before too. I like that one. But I like this one.
I like the legs better. And what about, this is what I go through when I take I take a lot of photos because the scene's changing every fraction of a second with all these people moving around.
I think it'd be interesting for you to show us all your frames here.
I will. I'll put them all up there. I don't know how many I took. I probably took at least 25 or 30.
Yeah, great.
And I narrowed it down to like 4 or 5. See, this one, there's a shadow across, so you don't get all of the goggle. But I do like the legs and the everything.
The reflection is really amazing because I know what that deck is like. I mean, it's just a concrete deck. Like that there was this much reflection is really fascinating.
It is. And it happens because
so clear.
The concrete, how the concrete turns dark when it's wet. So now you've got a dark surface under the water. And it's not just wet. There's water like sitting on top of the deck at this point too. So
it was a crazy party.
It really makes it like mirrored.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll put up a few. People can tell me which one they
I think
like
it'd be
best.
great. I think that a lot of people would love to see. You hear a lot of feedback that people love to see the full process. I think you should put them all on.
Yeah,
And
I
then
might make
pull
a
up.
short video
of just
talking
like
through this
scrolling
whole
through.
like a separate thing too.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Although you just talked through it right now.
I
So it could
did.
just be
So
on the
maybe I'll
podcast.
make this a clip.
Sure. That
Yeah.
sounds good. So you took that great picture. We also have had, I've had multiple parents saying that they cannot wait to see the swim team pictures because now they have been trained into knowing that at the end of the season, they're going to get a bunch of cool pictures of their kids, and they love to do that. I think it's such an amazing gift to be able to give, our community each time we do anything, because you always photograph whatever our kids are participating in.
Yeah.
And then with swim team, you've been doing it long enough that people start talking about it before.
Yeah, they'll walk by me while I'm walking with my camera and be like, "I just love your pictures."
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm
Can't
so
wait.
excited to see your photos.
So many kids,
It's really great for my ego.
Yeah, it is. But that's good. You need to be out there because you do start to feel kind of silly, right?
Yeah.
If you're always taking pictures of like these kids' events, like if nobody cares, like that wouldn't feel as good. I have to say that when we got permissions, because we do, for the video where you shared some pictures,
Yes.
anytime we have kids in videos and whatever, we always ask explicit permission, besides the fact that they're in a public setting. We do ask explicit permission of all the kids when we use, children in our own kids, whenever they're in a video or online, we ask them permission to use their pictures. And that so many people told me that the picture that you chose was like one of their favorites. They're like, "Oh, we love that picture. It's one of our favorites." Or like the little butterflyer that was in the last episode. You'll have to go back and look at it. Apparently is his Apple Watch face. So because he's a great little swimmer and he swims year round, and butterfly's his favorite stroke. And his mom was like, "Oh, he loves that picture."
That's nice.
I know.
That's my favorite thing, is when people really love the photo that I take of them and they like print it and put it in their family room, or
It's
they
their
have
PFP.
it as their profile picture. They have it on their phone backdrop so they can look at it all the time.
You
I
love
love
seeing your
that.
pictures around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like whatever. That's super fun.
Well, that was interesting because it does bring up the whole, seeking permissions. This is something, consent is something I'm sure we'll talk about a lot because, and it's different, I feel like, because some things I shoot are like public performances. And so when I take pictures of our kids in shows, I know all of those people expect their pictures to be published places. And so the consent is there already. Swim team is different because the only place that those pictures really go is on the Facebook page for the
It's a
team.
private
It's a
Facebook.
private
Yeah.
page. And so they're not going out publicly. And so, yeah, we want to be sure if we're going to show a picture of a kid swimming that the parents are on board with that. If we're going to show it broadly, like on a podcast, on a social media clip.
Well, and I think
like
that we
that
have
sort
a
of thing.
unique perspective in a lot of this because we have been parenting now for 16 years. And that's longer than most photographers in the social media world have been. I think a lot of the popular groups. I think that there are not a lot of photographers who can see the concerns that parents have from a parent's perspective is what I'm trying to get at. I, have a really strong stance on that kids deserve to the autonomy to make decisions about what's being seen. I don't think that I would let them make bad choices or dangerous choices, but within the realm of safety, they can make their own choices.
Well, it really needs to
I
be
would
both
not-
of us, parents and kids, saying it's okay. Like if the
Right.
kids just said it was okay, but we didn't feel like it was the kind of picture. 'Cause
Right.
we
We
have
wouldn't
our
even-
own standard. Like we don't show all of the pictures that I take of our kids.
Absolutely not.
So it's very,
We try to keep it pretty vague. Like,
Yeah.
here's a kid. Not like,
Right.
not like this is, whatever. We try to allow them to have a private life.
Yeah.
So it should not hopefully you're
so maybe there's like a street scene that they're in.
Right.
But it's not a picture of
But I think
them.
that there's considerations that I was going to say that we have to ask for parents. Why it's always important to ask the parents. But then I also think it's nice to ask the kids.
Yeah.
So once we get past the level of like first meeting the standard of is this safe to put on the internet, then or in a newspaper or whatever, then secondarily, then do you want to be seen this way? So sometimes kids are making silly faces and stuff, and some kids love to be goofballs and want to be known that way.
Yeah.
And other people do not want to be known that way, and that's not part of the public persona that they are comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we don't want to force them to do it just because it's like, oh, it's no harm done. Like they deserve the autonomy to make that decision. So we try really hard to incorporate all those things. And I think the reason that we should talk about that on our podcast is because we have a perspective that I think a lot of people who are out taking pictures don't have yet, because of photography is often the game of people who are not parents.
Yeah. Right.
There's a lot of photographers who aren't parents, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And maybe don't have that. So I'd love to, so I just think it's really important that we talk about that here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
No, that does make sense, having this conversation. Especially posting photos of kids in public settings is always real like hot button issue. I just saw a video recently. All these photographers who do that like first person perspective of them shooting on the street, and then they'll show you the result.
Yes.
I saw one of those recently where the person was like across the street from the statue that's very similar to the Bean in Chicago, the Cloud Gate. So it's got kind of that like curved, warped surface.
Yes.
And he was waiting for someone to walk by in an interesting way to take it. So all these adults were walking by, and they were just kind of ignoring it. And then a kid walks by, probably like 7, and looks at it and stops. And then he goes back, and then he does kind of this thing. And so the photo is of the kid, but you're kind of seeing his face in the reflection of the bean. But the focus is on his body on the sidewalk with his back to the camera. So you're not seeing his face there, but you do kind of see his face reflected. A lot of people in the comments were like, hey, not cool taking pictures of kids in public and putting them up online.
But did they ask permission before they posted it?
I'm sure they didn't.
Well, then don't post it here.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Blur it or something. I don't know. I'll look at it. We'll put it up in some acceptable manner. But, a lot of people are like, don't show kids at all. It's not cool. Was the kid actually identifiable in the pictures? Debatable. I don't know. I just try to avoid that completely by just not photographing kids in public.
In an identifiable
way. Like I had a photo where I saw this kid walking down the street pulling on a rope, probably a 3-year-old kid, one of those old Fisher Price like xylophone things, like colorful. And he had it on a string, and I'm like, I want to take a picture, but it's a kid, and I'm going to be walking right next to him, and I don't know. And I couldn't think in the moment. So I just pointed my camera downward and took a photo. And I thought, I'll think about it later. Because I'll take a photo and then decide not to share it. And then that one, I had cut off his head in the photo. So you couldn't see his head. All you saw was the kid pulling the thing behind him. And I'm like, okay, I feel like this is fair to share because...
Also, were there any identifying landmarks or anything like that? I think we have to be really careful about those kind of things. So I think that, there's a lot of conversation that maybe is not happening widely enough yet, which is that like we need to keep women and children safe. We now need to keep, people who are potential targets of our government safe. We need to keep right? And we need to make great choices. So we need to make sure that if we are photographing people, it is in a place where it is assumed that there's there be newsworthy. So there might be photographed. They understand that. And then that maybe no landmarks, maybe hold the picture for a while, maybe whatever, right? Because there are always people who are, and if you can, ask them for consent before you publish it.
Yeah, like I think a picture like that kid with the statue, it's like,
all you have to do is ask the parent.
You know right away. I know as a photographer, there's certain times you get a photo. Sometimes you're taking a series and things are really busy and happening, and you don't know if you got something out of it until you look through your photo. That one, like, he knew right away. guarantee it, that, oh, this is a good photo. And he could have hopped across the street, man down, and just been like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm so-and-so. I was taking a picture of the statue. Your kid walked by. Here's the picture. It was a digital camera. He could have shown them. Yeah, I'd love this picture. Can I send you a copy?
And would it be okay if I posted it on my social media?
Yes, I do this sort of thing.
Yeah, and then we keep people safe, and then we know that we're not putting them in harm's way.
Well, and you know what? I also feel like, too, if they say no, I never delete photos, even if people don't want me to use them, because it's, I don't know, it's a moment in time that I captured, and I don't want to delete things. So I wouldn't delete it, but also, like, I kind of feel like, what would be the harm in waiting, if it's really a great photo, 5 years, 10 years, post something in the future? I don't know.
If they told you no, probably not.
Okay. It's an interesting question.
I think that...
I think that's where my news photography thing comes in, because sometimes there is something that's newsworthy and people are like, I don't want you to publish my photo.
Well, that's different.
And that's different.
Yeah, because
this is not
because
newsworthy.
The public's
it's
rights
just a nice.
supersede
It's just a nice moment. So maybe
rights.
Once no, always no.
I just think that people just drastically underestimate how unsafe it is for some people to exist. And so let's just allow for them to make their own choices.
Well, let me say one more thing.
There's plenty of people who love having their picture taken. Like 99.9% of people you take their picture of are going to be like, sure.
Yeah.
Great. It's a great picture. Would I love to be seen on the internet in this capacity? Yes.
Yeah. I think this would be a good chance. We've never talked about this publicly before. Just last year, I won't go into any specifics, but we were at a public place and I took a photo of an ice cream stand, and you could see a mom and her 2 young kids there. And I just took the photo. I wanted to take a photo of the ice cream stand. Whatever. I walked away. I took other things. You ended up talking to that mom, and she was in a domestic violence situation. She told you about it. And here I am. I had taken this photo at a location that was identifiable.
Right.
And had I shared it, I mean, who knows
they
what.
They at least knew that they were in the vicinity of where they were.
Yeah, at a certain time, probably even. So I think that there are people talk about these things like, oh, yeah, what are the chances that it's going to happen?
I hate to break it to you.
It happens.
It's pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know, just in my own life, I know plenty of women who've been in a lot of danger, and I think any woman would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Way more than you would ever think. It's not a one-off thing. It is, sadly a common occurrence. And I think that if men as photographers who is commonly
taking these kinds of
pictures because they are blind to the situation, they are complicit in the violence against women. So you have to stand in the way of it. You have to protect the women and children. It's just the reality. It is what it is. You got to do your part.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Right.
Help women and children and minorities and marginalized people be safe. That is your job.
Right.
If you're not actively, providing protection, you're probably allowing harm. So if you can think of it that way, then you make good choices. Just make good choices.
Yeah.
Be a good person.
Right.
And it'll feel good. Every once in a while you get a situation where you think, thank goodness I didn't do that. And then you start to learn. I think people are just scared to ask for consent. We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And, we hear a lot the argument that if I stop and ask a question, it's going to ruin the picture. Okay, take the picture first.
Yeah. It's not that complicated.
Right. And also then you're showing a person, this is the literal picture I'm talking about. I think a lot of the time people don't know that, what the picture is. So they're imagining all the different ways that they could be photographed.
Yeah.
That's different.
Right.
Even I'm like that with you. You know what I mean? No, I don't want to be photographed in my bathing suit.
Yeah.
But you're if you showed me a picture and it's just my shoulders, I'd be like, sure, I just happened to be in a bathing suit when you took that picture. That's totally different.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I just think anybody wants that. I mean, you want to be able to see what is the picture we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So it's even better. Take the picture, say, can I show it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I have the whole other idea though. Also don't sit around taking pictures of somebody like a stalker. That's weird.
That's true.
And stop drawing people.
I'm
sorry, you guys. That's weird.
I don't like that.
It's weird. You can't sit there for an hour drawing somebody without telling them. That's weird.
Yeah.
It just is. It just is. That's a whole lot of their life. A whole conversation happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not for that.
No.
I know people aren't going to like that. I'm sorry. But if I've been like being watched for a while and I found that out, I do not believe that most people who have I think most people are shocked and don't have time to react accordingly in those videos.
Right.
If you like showed me a picture of me that you drew in a park while I was hanging out, I'm always like, are these people cheating?
Right.
And you just depicted it.
Yeah.
For posterity's sake.
Infidelity.
In detail.
In
watercolor.
In pastels.
Yeah.
That'd be that's like a...
Infidelity in pastels.
Uh-huh.
That would be a great series.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm for it.
Okay.
only when people are doing something wrong.
Yeah. Right.
I know people disagree with me on this, but I mean, that's why we live in a world with so many different people and so many different perspectives.
Right.
This is just what I think. And maybe you haven't thought of it this way.
Yeah.
I guess if you have different feelings about the drawings, I know we could talk about this forever. I want to know if you feel stupid taking pictures.
You're asking me this?
Yes. If you feel stupid taking pictures, I'm wondering, is there anything coming up that you could practice that in?
Transition.
Segue.
Yeah. Well, this podcast will be out on July 3rd. July 4th, as we know, here in the United States is Independence Day. And I am a big proponent of, different things that you can do if you like taking pictures of life and the world and what's going on and having other people in them, but you feel a little bit nervous. Like, go do something that's a public celebration. People are in a good mood. They expect people to be taking lots of photos. Somewhere people are going to be taking pictures around. You might end up in somebody's photo. You might end up on the news.
You're going to watch a parade. The people in the parade are definitely wanting to be in pictures. They're in a parade.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a lot of great pictures to take.
If you're in a parade, you're consenting to being photographed.
I mean,
because
probably
people take
explicitly.
pictures.
They probably sign something.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still, when I'm out, if I'm taking pictures of people, I'll still ask if I have something that features a person. If it's a scene where there's several people
and they're not a public figure
visible.
Public figures get to be in the pictures.
Yeah, you never have to ask a public.
You don't have to ask your mayor if you can publish their picture.
Right. Yeah.
Or the police, or the firefighters and their cool fire trucks. And the firefighters though are great.
Yeah.
They love to be in pictures, as we all. There's a long history of firefighter photography.
And usually, I'm very I'm in the shoot first, ask questions later camp. But every once in a while, I will ask first. I can remember this picture of there's a baby in a baby carrier and front facing, and the dad had her on, and he was eating corn on the cob.
I know that picture.
And I wanted to get close and take it from a close angle, so I said, "Hey, I'm taking pictures for this event. Can I take your picture?" And he's like, "Yeah, cool." Yeah. So I have the picture up close. You don't even see the dad's face. You see the baby asleep in the carrier with this corn on the cob on a stick, in front of them. And so the point being, people are happy to do that. It also gives you a reason, because I feel like with just straight street photography, people are like, what is the reason that you're taking a photo?
Sure.
What is your motivation? What are you
so start a blog.
To do with these? Yeah, right?
Do something.
Well, so if you have a reason.
Come up with a story. Come up with a reason that you're doing it. I'm doing a series on 4th of July.
Yeah.
I'm a photographer. I do this. Or I am doing I love fair food. I take pictures of people eating fair food. Or for this organization.
Whatever. I'm
find a way.
Telling the story about, Main Street in this community. So
tell a story. Create a media pass from your blog.
I find having a reason.
Go do it.
So the fact that it's a holiday is a reason.
Yeah.
The fact that you're working for a publication is a reason. So
and guess
even
what?
if
your local publications want your pictures.
That's true.
So they're asking for them. They would love to use them. And so I bet you could contact, if you have a local city newspaper and say, I'm going to go out and take pictures of this event. Would you like to see them? The editor's going to say, yes, please.
Yeah.
And there you go. Now you're shooting for the publication.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, do a good job. Make good choices. But also, that's your in. And that's your story you're telling yourself, because that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
Is that how do you get yourself into a mindset that you can go do something. I mean, we talk about now like, oh, now we can talk to all these people we've been wanting to talk to because now we have a podcast, right?
Right.
So you legitimize it for yourself, and everything is made up. So just make something up.
Yeah.
Like just create it, meaning everything is made up. It came from nothing.
Right.
Somebody made up Vogue. Somebody made up, the New York Times. Like these things didn't always exist.
That's true.
They weren't born with the, creation. They're not from Genesis. We can go ahead and like just make something up ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so.
Just make something.
Going to that, you want to take pictures of things that are happening. There's like, I kind of think of it as steps to getting into this place where you feel completely comfortable. Even that I think is largely a myth because I've been doing this for 20 years and I don't always feel completely comfortable, but I know enough to know that like I want to take good photos, and so I care about that more than feeling dumb.
Being uncomfortable is part of the process.
It is.
So
like
we
there's
hear
some
about
people,
these stories about like actors and stuff,
like
right?
I'm pretty sure it was Ian McKellen saying, he's like 80 years old and he's like, I still get ill physically before every performance that I do.
Yes, he has stage fright.
Yeah.
Or like Ted Danson saying, isn't this so embarrassing?
Yeah, telling another
acting?
actor between takes, like, isn't this so embarrassing? Like, people still have those kinds of feelings.
Or what did I see the other day where somebody said, maybe it was Anthony Hopkins in an interview that was like online in last year or whatever. Somebody said something like, Harrison Ford, sorry. It was Harrison Ford who somebody asked him, how do you play these characters without feeling embarrassing?
How easily can you silence the part of your brain that says, I look like an idiot when I'm playing a Red Hulk? The behind the scenes footage of this, you probably look like an insane human being.
I don't want to break your bubble, but that's what the money is for.
To silence that part of your brain?
Gone. Gone.
It's like magic.
It's not magic. It's commerce.
Said that's what the money's for. Like he's not embarrassed.
Yeah.
He's getting paid to do it.
Yeah. I'm willing to feel embarrassed for $10 million.
Yeah, like who cares?
Film.
And I mean, aren't you so like, and people want that. People want the energy. People want the excitement. Like you have to be willing to be cringy.
Right.
Embrace the cringe, as Taylor would say.
Yeah, for real.
So
I think of it as these steps. So you want to get to this spot. Where you're at least willing to feel embarrassed in public places. So, starting with your closest friends, your immediate family, and taking pictures of things that they're doing or asking them to be a part of your project that you have an idea for. And then you can kind of expand it from there. So you go to like a larger friend group, you go to some group you're a part of. Maybe you're in like a theater program, or maybe you play Ultimate Frisbee. I used to take pictures I played Ultimate, and everybody was cool with me being around taking photos because they knew who I was. If you're part of like a church group or some kind of community group, taking those photos, like that's the next kind of step after your closest family and friends. And then you can start doing things like these sorts of events where people expect things to be taken, sporting events.
They're just going to assume you're a news photographer.
Concerts. And you can even ask and say like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Like I'm a photographer. I want to practice my sports photography. Can I come shoot at your thing? And most of the time, especially you're talking about like minor league teams, amateur leagues.
Don't sign a work for hire.
Yeah, don't sign a work for hire.
You still own the pictures, but do go do it and then let them use the pictures if that's the agreement.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will let you have access for usage.
Yeah.
I think you have to have something to show, but if you have a bit of a portfolio. But you know what? There's like city leagues. There's grown-ups who play kickball and softball and, where they would think it was fun to get their pictures. So like you don't need to focus on like kids sports. Go out and take pictures of adults doing things. So it's totally safe. There's roller derby. There's, roller skating rinks where there's like people doing stuff. There's so many different environments. There's masters swimming meets. There's, there's pickup basketball games. Like you can find sports if you want to go take sports that people will let you take your picture. Yeah. And then you start to build a portfolio, and then you can start to get some access.
Yes.
And you start to build your confidence along the way, because the only way to build confidence is by doing it. And I think, along those lines for our podcast, like recording all those episodes that we're like, this is not going to work.
Right.
But I gained a lot of confidence that, I don't think I look as stupid as I think I'm going to look. You can disagree with me in the comments. Go ahead. I'd love that. And
Don't do that.
no, do that, because I would love for this podcast to actually work. And I feel great about it. Like, I mean, you start to realize that like all those comments are paying your bills. So it does not matter. Go ahead.
Right.
And that's when you really start to see, like, I'm going to do this anyways. We talk about this stuff. You know, we feel passionate about the production of photography and content online.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's interesting. It's exciting. Anytime anybody asks, like, what can I do as a mom? What can I do to make some extra money? Make content. Make content.
Yeah.
This is the way to go.
That's true.
There is not enough, you know, middle-aged content at all.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, if you're 40, 50, 60 years old and you've got a little bit of time and you have something you know about, like, get online and start
there's
talking
so many
about
people
it.
who have done...
There's such a gap of knowledge and wisdom and information.
Young people love these, like,
They love the
90-year-old
older people.
who
Oh my
go
gosh.
on TikTok and are actually participating. You know what I
Yes.
mean? They're like...
They play the game. They're on
sharing
TikTok.
stories.
They're
They're
legit.
participating in trends.
They do trends, yeah.
You know, and then there's that dad, the YouTube dad, who, like, started...
Oh, he like
teaching
teaches you
people
how to do stuff,
things,
and
like
people
how to
like
shave.
cry.
People love
He's
him
so nice
much.
that because
He's
they'll say
kind
like
and-
why he's like teaching you how to change
Like,
a tire.
change a
But also
tire,
RuPaul
shave,
does a lot of that,
like-
and that's something that is like unexpected. RuPaul has a whole series on like life lessons and like life skills, and I think that just these people. I mean, people want it. They are
People love
craving it.
There's that person that's like the trans handyman.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so good.
Yeah.
So good, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'd feel so safe with this person in my house. Like, please teach me how to do this.
Yeah.
And then there's like all the women who are doing things
Yes.
online, and it's so exciting. And the men who are doing things that are not typical male activities, parenting, cleaning their houses. I mean, if you've got a perspective,
Yeah.
I have just gained so much love and appreciation and adoration for the human race via social media in the
Yeah.
last 5 years.
Right.
Like, if I wasn't on TikTok, I would be feeling extremely hopeless, I think, and helpless. I think that I see that there are people like me. I see, you know, when people talk about like, was it better in the 80s and 90s? No.
Absolutely
Because
not.
if you were not part of the mainstream, you felt very alone.
Yeah.
Very alone. And now you can very easily find people like yourself. Like, I see our kids who are different finding their crowd so early that they never skip a beat.
Yeah.
They never question if the outfit they're wearing is cool, because they know it's cool. They know that the people who are looking at them, who are boring and dressing like everybody else, are the ones who aren't cool.
Yeah.
Right? They have this, they know there's people out there that love this. There's people out there that like this. There's people like them. I wouldn't trade that, because I wouldn't want to go back in time. I am of my era, for sure. I love this time.
I
wish
think
things
people-
were better,
okay,
but
listen.
I also love it way more than I loved being a kid in the 90s. It was hard.
No,
I had a
I know.
hard time in college.
I see right
and
now,
high school.
especially the 90s being like romanticized by people. Like, it must have been better then. You didn't have social media. Like, you didn't really have the internet.
Right.
Like, there were none of these things. People didn't carry cell phones. Like, you must have just been free and in the moment. I'm like, yeah, for people to like bully you.
Yeah.
For people to be like cruel and mean. Like
Remember, yeah,
gay people were not accepted broadly as...
no, they were
think
secretly
about-
accepted. We all knew they were gay,
Yeah.
and we were fine with it, and we did not talk about it.
Well, we were,
Like,
but
think about
the
there are a lot of-
generation
No,
that
there
was
was a lot. The people who were raising
people
us
who
were
were
not. So we all kept it a secret.
40,
we were all
even like
allyship
30,
was
40,
quiet.
50, 60 years old at the time were
Not comfortable with it.
not comfortable
And I mean,
with
yeah,
it.
like, I think
There's
being
a
an
lot of
ally
that,
meant
like,
you
well,
kept
whatever
their
you want to
secret.
do in private is fine. Just don't be
Right. Mm-hmm.
putting it in my face. Like, there's that kind of thing. People would tell the most misogynistic or racist jokes just off the cuff, like about like spousal abuse or using racist language. Just like, oh, it's just a joke. It's a joke. I don't really feel this way. It's just funny.
Right.
Just like off the cuff, like in any kind of social situation. Like, I remember these things.
Yeah.
And that was just a part of like the daily life.
And you didn't have the support of a group of people telling you did how to deal with that. How do you stand up against that? How do you speak out about it? You find this information out from people who are like you. And if you're one of 100, 1 out of 100 in any situation, or 1 out of 20 in a classroom, who are you learning how to behave from?
Yeah.
Right? And thinking, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't feel right. Well, now you can find somebody who agrees
if you did
with
anything that was like expressing some kind of feelings or like that you thought maybe someone said something inappropriate, you'd be called like a homophobic slur.
Yeah, or,
like
or a female.
Or
body part or
any of those kinds of things just for like,
or just being called a girl. I mean, like the self-hatred
how the
I had
coaches
growing
in
up.
sports would yell at you like, you're like a girl.
Yes, and like
be a man.
My like internalized misogyny was so significant coming up because I didn't want to be connected with girls. I wasn't friends with girls unless we were not like the other girls.
Yeah.
And it's like so icky to think back at how, that was it was like the height of pick me.
Yeah.
Girl life.
Right.
And it was icky and gross. And I remember not fitting in with the boys because I didn't feel comfortable watching something like A Clockwork Orange.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And being like, I don't know. And they were like, okay, yeah, of course you don't. They could at least get, like, my friends were nice enough that they were like, oh yeah, like, I guess you wouldn't like that movie. But like, they didn't think of it before they watched it.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those were my friends. Or I was with girls that I didn't fit in with because I didn't care about how I looked all the time because I wanted to focus more on what I was thinking or doing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find those, there was very few and far between. And so we were caught in this dichotomy of boys versus girls, and anybody who was in the middle was just like, where do we go?
I feel like it's the same as how people cherry pick the aesthetics of an era. Like people are like, oh, the 80s must have been so cool. Like, look at all these bright colors and these like graphics and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, it was like wood paneling and like
it was oak,
floral,
so much oak,
floral print furniture.
And the navy and pink flowers. The country aesthetic was what we lived with.
Oh, the country aesthetic.
Just like in the 90s, we lived with the Tuscan aesthetic.
Sure.
It was not regular people. This is like if you think of Live, Laugh, Love and Millennial Grey, that's how pervasive the Tuscan aesthetic and the country aesthetic were. And that's how we lived. We did not have hot pink furniture.
No.
Or like blow up chairs or any of that stuff. That was like on a TV show.
I mean, if you need any proof, look at how like today how a teen's room is depicted in a film or a show, and then look at your
actual life,
your friends or your kids or whoever.
I'm trying to think. Like Everybody Loves Raymond was like how a lot of people's houses looked.
Right.
Or
that was pretty true to life.
And the parents' house, Marie, and what's the dad's name?
I forget.
The Barones, like the adults, their house was very much how our grandparents' houses looked.
Right.
And that was very spot on. Or if you think about what's the one with Tim Allen?
Oh, Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. That would be like a show.
Yeah.
Like where our houses that would be like a nice 90s house.
Right.
Like that's a fancy house.
Yeah.
Where they lived. That was what we thought looked fancy.
Yeah. Right. I think if you looked at something like Full House, that's not what people's...
No.
They had all this fancy stuff, and it was like highly decorated, and obviously done by
My Two Dads
set.
had a really cool house, and I remember wanting to live in the My Two Dads house.
That's funny.
And I feel like she had some kind of entrance to her room that was like...
Oh,
was there like a fire pole or something?
Passageways.
Then what about that?
That
was Silver Spoons.
But yeah, so I think people don't know what it was really like.
No, it was mostly like a real bummer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it was nice, but most of what people think of it as being nice, I agree. Like, I think it's great if kids can go out and not be tracked and, not expect parents being able to but I also think kids have more freedom because they have cell phones and it is safer. And I mean, here's the thing, I have seen sometimes people are like, oh, what was it like? Everybody was getting abused. And it's that's what it was like. It wasn't so great. If you were lucky to come out unscathed, super. That was not always the case.
Sure.
So I think we're better off.
I do, for sure.
So 4th of July is coming up. How do you feel about fireworks photos?
I hate taking fireworks photos. That's the only thing I can think of that I can say, like, I really hate taking photos of. Because the difficulty to, like, reward ratio is, like, it's not worth it to me. It's hard to do well and interesting, and it's not fun. Actually, I thought about this a little bit more since you first asked me, and a lot of it has to do with because fireworks photos are basically like landscape photos. Because
without the landscape,
well,
they're not interesting.
Yes, yeah, because nobody wants to just look at a picture of a firework in the sky. Like, what else is in like? You got to have something in there. Mm-hmm. And the only ones that I found that were interesting, I'm like, okay, you would have clearly had to have scouted this out. You need to know where the fireworks are being launched from, like about how high they're going to be in the sky from that vantage point, and what else is going to be around there. There are going to be people here watching. So I found some cool ones where it's like a cityscape photo, and then the fireworks are within the context of the city.
Sure.
That's interesting.
I mean, you have a couple of good fireworks photos.
To say that I don't like it also doesn't mean that I haven't gotten a few that I like. I mean, I like some of the ones that I've taken, which I can put on the screen here. There's our local concert hall, and then I got a big like shell exploding behind it, and it looks cool. It's cool. So the building has to be lit already for it to really be seen in a photo like that.
I like the fireworks pictures of the people watching the fireworks.
Yes, I agree with that. To me, that's more interesting. I like people's reactions. I like how they're lit up. I'm going to show you a couple photos.
Okay. That's cool.
This is super cool. So Joakim Eggleston is the photographer's name. This is just it's in Norway. So it's not the 4th of July, but when I looked around for fireworks photos, I saw this and it just blew my mind. This is from 1991.
So this is multiple fireworks celebrations going off.
Yes. So it's a high angle view of this small like Norwegian town, and it actually has snow on the rooftops and on the ground. And it's like a holiday, and a lot of people are shooting off fireworks. So you have this beautiful, like the townscape photo would be beautiful in and of itself. And then you add all these fireworks going off at the same time. And it's...
Well, and they've got these like bottle rocket. This must be like a slow exposure.
It's definitely slower. I don't know how slow it could be.
Because there's these streams from like what are basically like bottle rocket style.
It's not...
Don't you think?
Super blurred. Yes, some of these are like bottle rocket. Like there's these long streaks, like but then you get the blooms.
Also get the what are they called? The like
trails.
Showers.
The showers, yeah. Mm-hmm. So if it was a really long exposure, it'd be more blurred than that. You wouldn't get that kind of definition of the explosions. But it's a beautiful image, black and white. It's a 4x5, so my guess is it was taken on a large format camera. But so I'm like, okay, so how can you see this photo and get some ideas? Well, what are some good vantage points you could find in your area?
So maybe, well, I will say too that some of the ones that I've liked that you've done is when we're shooting off fireworks, which we hate shooting off fireworks, but our kids love it. So we always do a few.
Yeah.
And we have some fun pictures from that.
From like private displays. I think like too embracing like, you know what, it's just going to be dark. Put your camera at like 6400 ISO, 12,800 ISO. If you have that, who cares if it's grainy?
The color in that is nice. The light. See, there's a lot more going on than just fireworks.
Yeah, so every fireworks photo that I pulled to show and talk about was because there is more going on. Like this one, David Drebin. This is obviously lit from inside because you can see that by her feet. There's like, so it's somebody on a balcony and there's kind of a gauzy curtain that you're seeing through on
why are her feet
a third of the
ground?
frame. And then you see like a body of water with fireworks being shot off all around. This is clearly either a hotel balcony. You see some sliding doors on the side, or like a condo. Yeah, the sheer curtain you can kind of see through, but it's got this pinkish hue to it. It's obviously lit because she's very strongly lit from the back, not from where the fireworks are. And she's jumping up for some reason that I don't know, but it's a pretty photo. But the point is,
I'm real stressed out by the jumping up on the balcony.
Yeah.
But other than that, I know she's probably safe.
you mentioned watching fireworks. This is a 1962 photo by Bruce Davidson, amazing photographer, one of the greats. You see this black family at Coney Island. You see the Ferris wheel in the background. There's obviously lots of people around. In the frame, they're the only black family that you can see. And you do see a guy here kind of looking over at them. But in this case, I don't feel like it's...
I think he's looking at the photographer.
I think he's probably looking at what the photographer is taking a picture of. I think it's very, when I'm looking at a photo and trying to like kind of parse out what's actually happening, I try to take into account those sorts of things. Because I've seen a lot of photos where, there's a white person looking at black people and it might seem that they have
feelings or thoughts
about it, especially from this era, 50s, 60s. But I try not to assume that's what it is unless it's pretty clear, like they're yelling or scowling. Then it's pretty obvious. This, to me, looks like he's just looking over at other people. So that's a great image of people watching. Very classic, like this close family. They're holding on to each other. Just a beautiful image.
That's cool.
I looked for...
What is that?
I Googled Henri Cartier-Bresson fireworks. And this is what came up. This is from 1958. And the point is, I don't know what those are. I can't tell. There's rows of like these things. I don't think it's like a cemetery. I think it's like some kind of gates or something. Fencing. I can't tell. But the point of showing this one to me was that, the fireworks are kind of just secondary. It's not about the fireworks. It's really about the scene. And then you see the fireworks happening behind them. So I like, the single person in the center at the bottom really gives some like scale and scope to the image. There's a couple from Brassaï. These are from 1936. So I think it's cool seeing some fireworks photos from that long ago.
So do we think that the exposure was causing it to look like this? Or do we think fireworks looked different in 1936?
Oh, that's a good question. I think both. It's definitely a long exposure because you can see how the person on the left moved. Their part of them is kind of, you can kind of see through them. But again, I don't think this was like a 5-second exposure. It might have been a couple seconds. It's a little bit longer than some of the other ones. But I don't know. I love seeing old, good photos instead of just those kind of like bland.
Okay, so if you're not great at... Okay, so first of all, what are the tips for taking pictures of fireworks if you're determined to do it?
If you're determined to do it, like know exactly where they're being fired from.
Okay.
If you really want to study... Like if I were doing this for a client...
Yes,
I would...
Which you have before.
I would be like, where are they being fired from? What are some notable landmarks in the area? Where are the crowds going to be? Like, what's a vantage point that I can see some interesting things in the frame? And then pick out a spot based on all of that. Maybe if there's like a landmark. Like I found this one from San Francisco from around like 1980. And you can see kind of just a silhouette of the mountains and like one of the towers from the Golden Gate Bridge. And that's enough. You see that, that's the Golden Gate Bridge. Even without the color and the light, you can tell by just the form and the hills behind it.
Yeah.
So, looking for that sort of thing. There's one more I wanted to show.
Okay.
This one, I think, this is from a newspaper. I'll put the photographer credit up on the scene, but this is Detroit. So you've got, this is a great shot because you've got the skyline, you've got the river with boats on it, you've got a bridge with lights on it in the background, and then you've got the only empty spot in the frame is the sky, and there's fireworks going off there. So it's not, if you were taking the cityscape, that would be an empty spot. But with the fireworks, it fits right in there. And it's really like a great,
it's a nice picture.
Yeah, it's like identifiable. It's a certain place in time. It's a great, so if you're wanting to show, you got to find
Detroit,
that location.
This is a fun picture.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
thinking about, I think, what you want to get out of it? What's your intention? What are you driven to do? What are you trying to photograph?
Yeah, I think most people who are going to be taking photos of fireworks probably aren't looking to do something like that, where it's going to be like a cityscape.
No,
where
but
you
instead
have to scout
maybe
it
you're
out.
thinking
That's
like,
more like a professional.
I'm taking my family to go see fireworks. So if you are taking your family to go see fireworks,
yes,
and you want to remember this 4th of July,
yeah,
because it's important to you, then consider having your children in the pictures of the fireworks, for example.
Yeah.
Think about, what am I really trying to say?
If I'm photographing my kids, what?
I'm laughing because our children are like hovering around the doors.
If I was taking photos of our family watching fireworks, there are 2 things that I would do. One, I would take pictures of their faces, getting their reactions. So obviously, your lighting's going up and down. So I would just keep an eye on them, pre-focus, just hold my position, frame something up that I wanted, and wait for like a bright moment to happen. Mm-hmm. Take the picture. Then the other thing I might do is go around behind them and get a low angle where maybe if they're sitting on the ground on blankets or something, I could get their silhouettes against the sky. So that would be more like...
So it's like a collection. You have a nice memory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then those would be
And then really maybe all the other things
for.
you're doing for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Really make for a nice series to keep.
Yeah.
If you have a parade or you go swimming or you're at the lake or you're whatever.
Yeah.
Eating some hot dogs.
Right. Okay.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah.
Independence Day.
Oh, boy.
Sheesh.
Never, ever have I had more conflicting feelings around the sight of the American flag than I do right now.
Just keeps getting more exciting.
Okay.
Okay.
Podcast out.
Okay, we did it. Oh my God, it's hot.